Elon Musk gave these back-to-back gestures that people are saying mimicked a Nazi salute. You see it there. Elon Musk has not directly addressed this, but he has appeared to edit out that gesture from the video that he posted on X, the platform he, of course, owns. Help us understand what transpired.
Thank you.
Oh, careful. Careful with that salute.
It wasn't even like a subtle, like a wave, like one of these, like a...
It's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything.
That's what a Nazi would say.
We don't want Italy as a culture to disappear. We don't want France as a culture to disappear. I think we have to maintain the sort of reasonable cultural identity of the various countries. Or they simply will not be those countries.
Aber der ist wahrscheinlich für Sie auch ein Nazi, hm? Nazis, 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 lauter Nazi.
USA, 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 USA. Ah! Yes.
No, this is the Charlie Chaplin mustache.
Hey, so what the fuck was that? I mean, we all know what that actually was, but there are a lot of people online, from Elon Musk simps to professional headline writers for major newspapers, insisting that it was something else entirely. A mysterious gesture, or just what autistic people do, which I can't even begin to pass the ableism of saying that autistic people are just biologically predisposed to seek heiling, as if we could have just stopped World War II if we just replaced all of the Germans' machine guns with fidget spinners or something.
Sorry, I was stimming.
Besides the people just flat out in denial because they've decided that don't believe the evidence of your own eyes and ears was in fact not an incredibly on-the-nose line from George Orwell's 1984, but actually just words to live by, inspiration, hashtag just girly things. And of course, the editors at the New York Times, the BBC, and the Daily Mail, who were terrified of upsetting the richest man on earth, and are filled to the brim with conservative bootlickers whose one job is to make sure that they don't upset too many millionaires by reporting too many inconvenient facts. On top of all those people, you have the people who think they found the world's most ill-timed gotcha. It's not a Sieg Heil, you see. It's a Roman salute.
Well, that's all right then.
Gee, I wonder what the Roman salute is another name for. And wouldn't you know it, I'm perfectly placed to debunk this ridiculous argument along with all the other ones, because I am standing right here, in the city where the Roman salute made its way from anachronistic depictions of ancient Roman art to being the greeting of choice by fascists. This is Rijeka, in northwest Croatia, or as the fascists would have you call it, that is, by its Italian name, Fiume. I am in Rijeka, in Croatia, or as the nuncio would have you believe it to be called, a Fiume. This city is the birthplace of, among other things, the torpedo, so that's okay, and the Roman salute, the idea of black shirts, the balcony address, and basically all of the aesthetics of fascism were invented here by Gabriele D'Annunzio during his little proto-fascist experiment, and later basically plagiarized by Mussolini, and then plagiarized again by Adolf Hitler, who then added a sprinkle of Germanness and the myth of multiple thousand years of history for a country that had been around for about 200. And wouldn't you know it, not only was the person who invaded this city and tried to create the world's first fascist state here the one that popularized the Roman salute as a greeting among fascists, but he's also partially responsible for the myths around it, that being that it was a greeting used in ancient Rome. There is no historical evidence for this, The first use of this greeting and the continued use of this greeting are one and the same. The Roman salute is the Sieg Heil. It is a salute designed to be used by fascists to signal to other fascists that they're fascists. And with that in mind, what could this possibly be?
Nazis, 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 lauter Nazi.
So let's talk about why Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, was doing the fascist salute, instead of playing Path of Exile like he was supposed to be. You were logged on, Elon. You were dungeon crawling, Elon. So why were you at the inauguration visibly tripping off your gourd on ketamine, being so obnoxious you got Baron Trump looking at you like Fade Ralpher, and staring at Jeff Bezos' girlfriend's tits? Were you playing Path of Exile on your Neuralink? Is that what this head movement means? Elon Musk is the grandson of members of the Canadian Nazi Party on his mother's side, and apartheid dipshits on his father's side.
Her parents came to South Africa from Canada because they sympathized with the Afrikaner government.
Okay.
They used to support Hitler and all that sort of stuff. But they didn't know, obviously, I don't think they knew what the Nazis were doing. But they in Canada, they were in the German party in Canada. And they sympathized with the Germans.
Yeah.
And as a white South African soon-to-be billionaire with an abusive father and the emotional maturity of a syphilitic snail, he was born cursed to be one of the most racist pieces of shit ever to walk the earth. This billionaire boor has ever since made it his life's mission to overcompensate for his childhood of his father agreeing that he deserved to be bullied, looking like a reject from Alvin and the Chipmunks, and presumably having a penis as withered and rotten as his heart, by exploiting as many people as possible, racking up lawsuit after lawsuit for everything from blocking unions to cutting corners to making cars that explode to get a little extra profit to recreating segregation in his factories. What a guy! Not content with having ruined the lives of the millions of people it takes to become a billionaire, however, Musk, following his daughter coming out as trans and him getting super ultra mega divorced, has decided to make it his life's new mission to install fascist governments in every country in the world.
I'm very excited for the AfD, and I think you are really the best hope for Germany.
But Musk's intervention in European politics is causing widespread consternation. Tonight, the French President Emmanuel Macron is meeting with Sir Keir Starmer at Chequers, where the subject is certain to come up.
There were rumours the world's richest man might bankroll reform. But Nigel Farage's mistake, it seems, was not backing Elon Musk all the way after his incendiary attacks on the government over historic child grooming scandals.
We don't want Italy as a culture to disappear. We don't want France as a culture to disappear. I think we have to maintain the sort of reasonable cultural identity of the various countries, or they simply will not be those countries.
And it turns out that when you have as much money as he does, that's actually worryingly easy. He bought the US government for less money than he used to buy Twitter. That's pretty depressing, but do you know what's even more depressing? On day one of him essentially having bought the presidency of the most powerful country on the planet, essentially performing a palace coup on the imperial hegemon by slipping it $20, he got on stage and did a Nazi salute. Not once, but twice. That seems like a pretty deliberate choice, eh? Now, this is beyond plausible deniability, so naturally, loads of people are insisting that it's plausibly deniable. So, to entertain all the ways in which people have somehow convinced themselves that this is 1, not a Sieg Heil like in Hitler times, and 2, okay actually, we're going to go over the arguments in Elon's favour, by which I mean the most unhinged comments on this side of X.com, the everything app. Then we're going to look at the excuses peddled by the mainstream media and even organisations that claim to be anti-fascist and working in the interests of protecting the Jewish people, like the ADL, who produced the most limp-dicked response to this I've seen since I literally got my penis chopped off. And then we're going to explain why it's not plausible that Elon was just doing an I open my heart to you salute that has never existed before he did this and will continue to not exist because it's not a thing. On top of this, why Elon didn't do a Nazi salute because he has autism, because most autistic people, believe it or not, aren't Nazis. Why it's a Roman salute isn't an excuse, because the Roman salute, 1, doesn't exist out of fascist symbolism, and 2, because they're the same fucking thing. And then we're going to try and make sense of why anyone would possibly try to deny any of this, when it's plainly fucking obvious what's happening here. I'm Brigitte Empire, science and culture correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, and here are some extremely normal opinions from the most gruntled and hinged people on Elon Musk's increasingly far-right internet. Ladies, gentlemen, and MBs, I give you the first group of responders to the Roman salute video, the commenters in denial, or to give them a catchier name, the Delulu Bros.
Roman salutes have always been a thing in anime.
That's why you wackos will continue losing. America has rejected the demonic lies you opened the door to for the past 8 years.
Grow up, bedwetter.
You do know he's Jewish, right? What? No, he isn't. I genuinely can't tell if this commenter is being anti-Semitic or is just stupid. They love twisting everything out of context and placing evil on things.
Leftist propagandists will stop at nothing. This time around, they aren't getting away with it.
They are dishonest hacks. When you remove context to sell propaganda, you are the bad guys.
Stop this nonsense. Elon did not make a Nazi salute. He sent his heart to the audience. Are you gonna accuse every police officer sitting in an intersection, stopping the cars coming from the front of a Nazi salute? We have enough real Nazis to fight. Elon Musk is not one of them.
Thank you. They were just looking for the little small things to create their false narrative.
No one is buying this regardation anymore. Her wave is not allowed. Nervously walks up to the mic. I think it's correct that Elon is a strange guy who hulked out in a strange moment, ... But he very probably did not intentionally do the Nazi salute. Elon is already incredibly awkward. Now couple that with the adrenaline and euphoria he was feeling today.
False accusations of Nazism are incredibly harmful during a time when the mainstream media is letting real Nazis, brackets, Hamas, have the mic without question.
That's right. People fighting back against genocide, they're the real Nazis. The people doing Nazi salutes, they're cool and normal. And you can trust this opinion, because it's from the same person who called Greta Thunberg anti-Semitic for having a stuffed toy, and thought a free parking sign was hate speech.
This is why CNN is failing.
And X is the single strongest news source on the planet. Lots of people are in denial about this obvious Sieg Heil. There are lots of different reasons people give for them being in denial, but ultimately they are all excuses. Excuses that come back to not wanting to accept that the richest man on the planet got on the biggest stage he's ever been on, stood behind the seal of the President of the United States, essentially the head of the global capitalist order, and openly did not 1, but 2 Nazi salutes, thinking he was being subtle by saying, "My heart goes out to you," before doing those. Not 1, but 2 Nazi salutes. Elon Musk is not a subtle man, however, and anyone who's telling you that he wasn't giving a Nazi salute, but was doing a "my heart goes out to you" salute, should be asked one very simple question. What's a "my heart goes out to you" salute? I've never heard of that in my life, and I've been alive for 33 years. Should I not have come across this apparently incredibly well-known gesture? If I were to tell someone, "my heart goes out to you," which I wouldn't, because people don't tend to say that outside of forlorn letters to faraway friends that are grieving a loved one or something similarly obscure, I can think of a couple gestures I might do. I might make a heart gesture with my hands. I might put my hand on my heart. I might reach out for their hand. What I wouldn't do is a fucking Nazi salute. And do you know what? I'm seeing far too many people thinking that they found a way to weasel out of coming to terms with the fact that this is exactly what Elon Musk did by showing videos of, for example, Adolf Hitler doing the Nazi salute, because he doesn't slap his heart like Elon does in the video. The problem with this is, it's been 100 fucking years. And as you can see in these videos from American History X, a movie about a neo-Nazi, and from an actual neo-Nazi rally in America, neo-Nazis, particularly those in the United States of America, wouldn't you know it, do the Nazi salute in exactly the same way that Elon Musk does. They slap their palm to their chest and throw their hand out. This is a Nazi salute. For those of you still in denial about this, I present to you video evidence of how Elon Musk actually gestures when he says his heart goes out to people normally. because a video of that actually exists. With this in mind, the My Heart Goes Out to You line was obvious cover for a salute he had previously planned, thinking he was being super cool and subtle. I mean, this is a guy who thinks he's the smartest man on earth, so he probably figured no one would notice, because he actually has the emotional intelligence of a slice of stale toast.
When did you get a German Shepherd? What, Adolf here? See, what? Not Adolf Hitler, okay? Adolf Marx, Harpo. I love the Marx Brothers. Why are you busting my chops? You know this.
Of course, in the days since, after it became clear that people had, 1, noticed what he had very clearly done, and 2, were not exactly happy about it, Elon took to the social media app that he bought and subsequently completely ruined to not deny it, but instead whine about how everyone kept calling him a Nazi, while hinting that he did in fact do it to be a troll, which is the sort of logic you'd use if you were 5 years old. Which makes sense, because it's about the level of Elon Musk's sense of humour. Some of his very gruntled and very hinged remarks include this ancient meme of a bird not doing what it's told, ooh, such a naughty child, with this extremely boomer caption, I just can't help it, cry laughing emoji, and crying on the internet that his Twitter feed wasn't just constant praise of him anymore, which, to be fair, is basically the reason he bought the platform in the first place. As Musk himself put it, if I see one more damn Nazi salute in my feed, I'm gonna lose my mind, weird face emoji. This algorithm sucks. After which Elon then reverted to the most common modern fascist method, practiced by Elon Musk's friend and another Elon Musk defender, Benjamin Netanyahu, the "but Hamas" deflection. As if, even if Hamas were what Elon seems to think they are, that would make him doing repeated Nazi salutes any less bad. But no, apparently, according to Elon, the only people that could possibly think that are the radical leftists that are really upset they had to take time out of their busy day praising Hamas to call me a Nazi. And having clearly humiliated himself and exposed himself as a fascist, he was made to look even further guilty by having this generation's Adolf Hitler, famous Holocaust revisionist, and far-right fascist, currently wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity, including that big one that starts with a G, that was famously done by a certain Adolf Hitler of Hitler salute fame, Benjamin Netanyahu. The famous war criminal and mass murderer said this in Elon Musk's defense.
Elon Musk is being falsely smeared. Elon is a great friend of Israel. He visited after the October 7th massacre, in which Hamas terrorists committed the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. He has since repeatedly and forcefully supported Israel's right to defend itself against genocidal terrorists and regimes who seek to annihilate the one and only Jewish state. I thank him for this.
So this is a new one. What Netanyahu is saying here, if I'm getting this right, is Elon Musk can't be a Nazi because he actively supports an ongoing genocide. Not the greatest argument in your favour as someone who wants to not be perceived as a fascist, I've got to be honest. The closest thing I saw to Musk trying to edge towards a denial while being legally not in denial was this hefty huff of copium.
It was astonishing how insanely hard legacy media tried to cancel me for saying my heart goes out to you and moving my hand from my heart to the audience. In the end, this deception will just be another nail in the coffin of social media.
Of course, this non-apology was not helped by the fact that he was constantly tweeting pictures of people like Arnold Schwarzenegger with his arm raised taken out of context, and that he spent about a paragraph making a bunch of awful Nazi puns, which just made him look like he was enjoying the speculation, when clearly he was actually mad as fuck, and desperately wanted to make it look like he wasn't in fact mad, presumably before turning into a corncob. Now, another cohort of defenders have decided to make an even lazier argument in Elon's defense, by showing stills of politicians from the Democratic Party apparently doing this same salute. And I don't know how to say this without sounding incredibly patronizing, but there's a reason they're sharing the photographs and not the videos. If you play the video of, say, Kamala Harris supposedly doing the Nazi salute, it's very clear that the photo caught her mid-hand movement. Whereas if you watch the full video of the Elon Musk Nazi salute, you see him hit the very pose, beat for beat, twice. In fact, it's worse than that, because not only did he do the Nazi salute twice, while obviously off his fucking tits on ketamine, thinking he was being super clever, and smirking as he said, "My heart goes out to you," as if that was just a thing people did, he then paraphrased a Nazi slogan. In his words,
It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
What did he mean by that? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. But given he prefaced it by doing two incredibly blatant Sieg Heils, I would hazard a guess
that he meant the American voter had secured the existence of our people and a future for white children. Is that far-fetched? Well, it's much less far-fetched than insisting that he did not hit the Nazi salute twice. I've seen that shit from multiple angles. Even people in the crowd clocked that it was a Nazi salute. As you can hear in this video.
Oh, careful. Careful with that salute. Yeah.
And you can add all of the context you like to it, because this is in context. Speaking of context, here are a select few tweets from the people I'm affectionately calling context bros, explaining how Elon Musk was doing the "my heart goes out to you" salute, a real thing that definitely exists, and not something that I heard of for the very first time in the wake of the richest man in the world doing a Nazi salute at a Nazi rally for the fascist president of the United States before carrying out the biggest mass deportation in American history, which is, if you know your history, Nazi shit. What? Why have you snipped the part where he says "my heart goes out to you"? He literally said "my heart goes out to you"! That was the intent of the gesture. Try not to be this way, it's completely dishonest. You're such a fraud, show the whole clip!
Elon's genuine moment, while the left creates fake narratives. Pathetic! American flag emoji.
Did you accidentally post this deceptive edit because you had to hurry back to molesting toddlers? "My heart goes out to you" is what he said right after. Play the full clip, dude. This BS is exactly why y'all lost, and will continue to lose. He's giving his heart out to the people, FFS facepalm emoji. Do you not have ears, too? It's him giving his whole heart. This isn't something very hard to understand. He said he was throwing his heart! Then he touched his heart and threw his arm out. Not a salute of any kind. Making stuff up, I think, is called misinformation.
I see you took out the words he was saying, which would have given actual context. Cry laughing emoji.
This is so dishonest. Democratic propagandists purposely cut the part which showed Elon saying "my heart goes out to you," which is what Elon was expressing. Here's the full clip. They still don't get why they lost.
Classic media spin. They conveniently omit context to fit their narrative. Here's the truth in full view.
Elon's empathy was clear. Maybe if they focused on facts, they'd understand the real story. Yawning emoji.
In all seriousness, you're arsler beyond belief if you think Elon Musk did a Nazi salute here. It's clear he's gesturing from the heart, deeply moved by emotion and gratitude. He literally says, "Thank you. My heart goes out to you."
These next few were in response to an actual historian of fascism, confirming that it is a Nazi salute. And as you can imagine, the fact that they had to argue with an actual expert did not make the context bros any more normal. Case in point. "My heart goes out to you," clutches heart and gestures fling it to the crowd. "Historian, it's a fascist salute. Historian should understand the importance of getting the context right. This is clearly not meant to be the Nazi salute."
It was literally a gesture of "my heart goes out to you." Historian of fascism. Eye roll emoji. Get a real job.
If you watch the video, he was thanking the crowd with all his heart and throwing his heart out to them.
He's throwing out love. That's it. End of story.
When Elon placed his hand over his heart and extended his arm and hand as if throwing his heart to the crowd, it can be metaphorically described as him figuratively tossing his passion and dedication out to the audience. This gesture symbolizes sharing his deepest feelings, aspirations, or commitment with the people, suggesting a profound connection or an act of giving his all to them. It's a powerful visual of Elon expressing a sense of unity, trust, or an emotional bond with the crowd, emphasizing his openness and vulnerability in that moment. Have you ever had an emotional and vulnerable moment? Yeah, me too. And surprise, surprise, it didn't make me a fucking Nazi. Also, if you were, just for the sake of argument, to become the context bro I'm talking to for a second, making a gesture of "my heart goes out to you," why would you do that with your palm facing down? Are you dropping your heart at their feet? Why is your hand doing that? Are you trying to stab them with your heart before it falls to the floor? Like, there are so many levels to which this doesn't work that it's just astounding. Even like standard liberals on Twitter understand what this salute is, and diagnose the problem too, that people can't accept what it is because they'll have to reckon with what that means. The fact that there is anyone left who can't is just astounding to me. In fact, I'm going to commit an act of heresy here. I'm going to quote a liberal, just to prove that you don't need to be a filthy, dirty socialist like me to understand what's going on here. I've been reflecting on this over the past day or so, and I've come to a realization. Many of my friends on the centre-right who are upset with me for making what I believe to be a very obvious observations aren't necessarily angry at me. They're angry at the implications of what I'm saying. The idea that neo-Nazism has entered the mainstream, potentially influencing the White House, is so alarming and existentially terrifying that it's easier to lash out at the messenger than confront the reality. If they accept this, it meant that the political home they've invested so much of their identity in, the movement they've championed for years, has become something so morally repugnant that accepting it feels like breaking their own brain. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. And I think that's exactly it. It's the same thinking that leads people into conspiracy theories. Sometimes it's easier to believe something completely batshit than accept a horrifying truth. Some people find it easier to believe 9/11 happened because George Bush wanted an excuse to invade Iraq, rather than reckon with the horror of American imperialism and the hatred it's brought out in many across the world, especially when they grew up believing that America was the land of the free, and that everyone in the world wanted to be an American. Sometimes the truth hurts so much, and is so fundamentally incompatible with a person's worldview that they would much sooner believe that the Earth is flat than believe in the reality happening right in front of them in plain view. Now, aside from the context bros and the people just plainly in denial, there are quite a few people online who, read the Wikipedia page for the Roman Empire and are convinced that they've worked out the daddy of all gotchas, the ultimate foil to any argument that this salute, which Nazis are doing on your screen besides Elon Musk, who is also doing the same salute as said Nazis, is a Nazi salute. Namely, the favourite argument of the Reddit bro. The well actually. Well, actually, it's a Roman salute. Technically, they're two different things. Perhaps Elon Musk is just a scholar of ancient Rome, the same as myself. I've read 3 Wikipedia pages, and now my profile picture is a bust of Augustus. I'm 53 years old, and I've never had sex. Or, as the SPQRaboos would say it,
Cecius Maximus. It's a Roman salute, chill out.
It can be interpreted in so many different ways.
That's the Roman salute that was adopted by the Nazis. Roman. It's a Roman salute. Bruh! I love Roman Empire a lot, but this will be so out of the context for the next 4 years. Roman versus Nazi salute, : Roman salute equals extending right arm outward angle, palm facing downward. Nazi salute equals raising right arm at an upward angle, palm facing downwards. What would you say, however, if I were to tell you that the Roman salute is the Nazi salute, and that either way, we don't have proof that the Romans ever used it? It was, in fact, popularized by fascists in the 20th century. Most famously Hitler, yes, but prior to him, Mussolini, and prior to him, the man who Mussolini basically plagiarized the aesthetics of fascism from wholesale, Italian poet, prolific and the man who invaded my city and turned it into the first proto-fascist experiment, Gabriele D'Annunzio.
I'm still here in Rijeka, eating the, of course, traditional food of Croatia, which is, of course, the bakery calzone, the most Balkan food in the world. Here he is, proto-fascist boy himself. Hey, we're at the gates of Rijeka, back in the Roman times, when it was Tarsatica. Can you see that? No. At the top, during the coup, there's a 2-headed eagle, and one of the eagle heads was replaced by the Italian flag, which was in poor taste, but a very funny image. I mean, you have to hand it.
The Roman salute has its origins in entertainment set in the Roman era, but written in the 19th century onwards. Far from being an actual piece of Roman culture that was brought back by those nostalgic for the days when Italy was an empire that straddled 3 continents, it first appeared in so-called toga plays, before spreading to other forms of art, and eventually to film, where the salute was established as a staple in the Roman setting, and to a larger audience than ever before. You can read about this in great detail in The Roman Salute by Martin M. Winkler, which much of this section draws from, which is a highly detailed study on, as Winkler puts it, the Roman or fascist salute and the various cultural contexts that were decisive for the origin of this gesture, its appropriation by totalitarian ideologies, and its dissemination. Thanks, Martin. It's not entirely surprising that people think that this gesture is indeed Roman, as this is a myth of the fascist party in Italy, its predecessors in denuncio circles, and Nazis and neo-Nazis thereafter spread, if not believed wholeheartedly. However, despite the propaganda seemingly having worked, and even modern shows like HBO's Rome featuring the Roman salute as a standard greeting of the Roman soldier, in Winkler's words, the term Roman salute is a misnomer. Not a single Roman work of art, sculpture, coinage, or painting displays a salute of the kind that is found in fascism, Nazism, and related ideologies. It is also unknown to Roman literature and is never mentioned by ancient historians of either Republican or Imperial Rome. The gesture of the raised right arm or hand in Roman and other ancient cultures that is attested in surviving art and literature had a significantly different function and is never identical with the modern straight arm salute. Whatever scholars knew about the truth of the Roman salute's origins, the popular imaginary had been set in stone by first theatre and then cinema. And fascists from Italy and later the rest of the world took the myth of the Roman salute and carried it with them, and with it, the spirit of D'Annunzio, Mussolini, and Hitler. In fact, the mythic origins of this salute are important. After all, part of what makes fascism is its appeal to a mythical past, a past full of glory that we can reach again if only we stamp out the weaknesses of the modern age and the degenerates. Fascism is built upon myths, and this in turn built fascism. Gabriele D'Annunzio himself made his fame as a poet, and he was prone to fanaticism all of his life. He campaigned tirelessly to get Italy into World War I, believing it would bring glory to the nation and save its people's hearts. It quite decisively did not. D'Annunzio was also a huge misogynist and a serial so yeah, this is the kind of ideology that attracts those kind of people. No surprises there. But because D'Annunzio was a poet and not a historian, and believed in the glory and prestige of military might and action for action's sake, he was the perfect person to swallow and spread this myth. Just the right mixture of dramatic, charismatic, and violent.
Allora, avevo dei legionari con me, cioè tipo i legionari appunto brillantissimi. Allora ho detto, rompete assolutamente tutte quelle scatole che le vogliono rompere a me. Si gettava da punto in tu. Ci fu appunto un terrore terribile.
The salutes of classical antiquity was demonstrably not the true model of the Roman salute, although in the 1920s such a perspective was foisted on a people willing enough to believe that it was. The one to do so was indeed Gabriele D'Annunzio, but D'Annunzio was not at all the first to employ the raised arm salute in the 20th century. He was the first to give it an explicit ideological and propagandistic turn, when he made it part of his rituals at Fiume in 1919, and the salute was soon adopted by Mussolini and the Italian fascists. Gabriele D'Annunzio, one of Italy's most beloved poets at the time, was deeply involved in a 1914 film about Roman history, Cavalleria, set during the Second Punic War. D'Annunzio was so revered at the time that despite coming in fairly late to the process, the film was eventually marketed as Gabriele D'Annunzio's Cavalleria. For his part, D'Annunzio, a narcissist to the very core, claimed falsely to be the film's true creator, and the inventor of its plot. In reality, it was already shot, and D'Annunzio had changed the title, some of the names, and rewrote the caption to give it a more dramatic flair. In the movie, the raised arm salute is used by both Romans and Africans as a greeting, inheriting this gesture from the theatre, and since we're talking silent movies, we're relying on exaggerated gestures to tell the story. 5 years after he invaded the box office, in 1919, D'Annunzio, with a force of approximately 2,000 men, invaded and occupied the city of Rijeka in Yugoslavia, modern Croatia.
And I'm at the port where he was finally kicked out by bombardment by the Italian Navy. And orders from the International Order, which, not good for humanity, I suppose. Over here, you see the streets, which he coveted so much.
As a long-time border city, at various times part of Italy, Hungary, Austria, Yugoslavia, Croatia, and it had a mixed ethnic population, as did pretty much all of the Balkans, and the Adriatic coast in particular was a reliable mixture of Italians, Croats, and other ethnic groups. But in an age of nationalism, being multicultural was problematic. Gabriele D'Annunzio, following outrage by Italian nationalists at Rieca's exclusion from the now unified Italy, and in an atmosphere of rising nationalism from Italians within Rieca, claimed the city of Fiume, as he called it, and ruled it as his own private proto-fascist state. Until Christmas Eve in 1920, when the post-World War I order finally had enough with its rogue Italian sex criminal sitting on land that had been given in international treaties to Yugoslavia, on account of all the, Slavs there, and the Royal Italian Army bombarded the city from the sea, returning it to the people. Well, kind of. While the aesthetics, ideas, and culture of D'Annunzio's Fiume would outlast his occupation by an order of magnitude, that doesn't mean that being part of the proto-fascist city-state was the glorious past that some people would have you believe. Violent street thugs roamed the streets. People were, as you'd expect from fascism, being killed openly for being different. Local Croats suffered constant intimidation. D'Annunzio's followers proclaimed the death penalty for anyone disloyal to the cause of Fiume, causing most prominent Croats to leave. The Croatian population regrouped in the suburb of Sušak, just south of the centre, making the Riječina River the new border, cutting the city in two, the fascist death cult on one side and the local population on the other. For D'Annunzio, the Croats were simply a culturally inferior people who lacked history, and therefore had no real right to rule over the eastern shores of the Adriatic. He also professed the lazy anti-Semitism of the Salon Radical, calling the recently formed League of Nations an institution created to further the interests of international banking Jews. The idea that Italian nationalism would define itself through disdain for others was typically D'Annunzian and typically fascist. Of course, these ideas would spread to one Benito Mussolini. During these short few years that D'Annunzio ruled Rijeka like the little poetry Hitler that he was, he popularised a certain greeting, however, one that he had become intimately familiar with from films of ancient Rome, and his own movie, Cabiria. A major part of D'Annunzio's political strategy was to strengthen ties among himself, his men, and the population of Fiume. In this, he was entirely successful. One important part was D'Annunzio's custom of addressing the people in a manner that was to set a pattern for dictators in the early 1920s and 1930s. Nearly every day, the Comandante harangued the mob from the balcony of the palace. The spiritual communion between him, the legionaries, and the people was complete. His words nourished his listeners, who had been starved of hope. They constituted a sort of miraculous sustenance. Thus, the life of Fiume became daily more paradoxical and more sublime. It fits in with this elevation of D'Annunzio into the sphere of the superhuman hero, not to say of the demigod. He was accorded a more than human accolade when people referred to or addressed him, religiously charged terms like Salvatore or Redentore that had no trace of irony about them. In this, D'Annunzio found himself in a direct line, extending back to Roman emperors, some of whom received divine titles and cults, and extending forward to Mussolini and Hitler, who both were accorded quasi-religious status. D'Annunzio's reign at Fiume has been vividly described in the following terms. Fiume became a symbol of patriotic fervour and youthful vitality. Futurists, ex-servicemen, nationalists, syndicalists, anarchists, and adventurers fought there from all over Italy. They swaggered around in cloaks and daggers, literally, bullied the local citizens, and enjoyed themselves immensely. The regime was a permanent fiesta, full of processions and ceremonies, of dancing and slogans. D'Annunzio's idea of democratic decision-making was rather like Mussolini's later. Long rhetorical speeches from balconies to the eager crowds below, punctuated by massive acclamations. D'Annunzio also invented many of the other trappings of the later fascist regime, including the militia, the Roman salute, and even the meaningless war cry. However, D'Annunzio's Fiume was not just comic opera. The Comandante issued proclamations urbi et orbi. Closely connected to D'Annunzio's custom of regularly appearing before the people is his introduction of the raised arm salute into his political and military protocol. In imitation of the epic early films, not least Cabiria, D'Annunzio appropriated the raised arm salute for his own purposes. Now a more rigid and rigorously observed form of the salute became a propagandistic symbol for D'Annunzio's political aspirations and later for those of all Italy, to which Fiume by this time belonged. The memory of the glorious Roman past played a large part in all this. That D'Annunzio had himself been a war hero also helped. He was now called consul, and his soldiers, many of them arditi from the Great War, were called legionaries. The Federazione Nazionale dei Legionari Fiumani, or Praetorians. As such, they needed a sign to distinguish themselves visually from their political adversaries, one that was readily comprehensible, even to outsiders, as being supposedly ancient. So D'Annunzio and his legionaries adopted the raised arm salute. Long familiar to all and sundry from the screen, and now declared to be il saluto romano, i.e. the real thing. They also invented a new salute, the raised right arm, chosen among the many gestures of the Greco-Roman orators. It was clearly superior to the humble bow or bourgeois handshake. Its limits seemed the sky. At the same time, it seemed, symbolically, to thrust a dagger into the throat of an invisible enemy. D'Annunzio's introduction of raised arm salutes at Fiume vividly illustrates that a gesture from stage to screen, one that had previously functioned equally well in various invented situations, private and public, political and military, can be adopted for a specific ideological purpose. Through appropriation for a new political reality, it became thoroughly militarized. As a result, it could never again be perceived as a harmless or innocent gesture. But in the process of this appropriation, the salute also lost the wide variety of arm movements that had been possible before. It became rigid, and from now on had to be performed in a snappy and pithy manner to achieve the visual impact it was intended for. And from D'Annunzio, this salute would be passed on to Mussolini, and from Mussolini to Hitler, and from Hitler to the neo-Nazis of post-war America, and eventually to Elon Musk. An unbroken line of one gesture. The Roman salute is the Nazi salute is the Sieg Heil. Although Twitter idiots like those we quoted from before would not be the first people to try and make this distinction, however falsely. Winkler, in his work, quotes the literature of an American Phalangist party, insisting that though yes, the Nazi salute and the Roman salute appear quite similar, they are distinct, and the Roman salute is a historical illusion, coming down a different tradition and used by various cultures. These Phalangists were, unsurprisingly for Phalangists, wrong. The path of the Roman salute, once it is adopted by D'Annunzio, goes in a straight line, down the fascisms of the 20th century and directly into the 21st. Unbroken. On the aesthetics of Mussolini's Italy, Winkler quotes Seth and Watson, saying, "Many of D'Annunzio's legionaries now joined the fascist militia, which provided the best prospects of action, and accepted Mussolini's leadership. But though the fascist party broke with D'Annunzio and Fiume radicalism, it showed that it had learned much from the Fiume adventure. The uniforms and the black shirts, the Roman salute, the oceanic rallies, the party hymn, the organisation of the militia into cohorts and legions, commanded by consuls, the weird cries, the demagogic technique of dialogue between orators and massed audiences, all the symbolism, mystique and style with which the world was later to grow so familiar, were plagiarized from D'Annunzio, who in this sense too could justly claim to be one of the spiritual fathers of fascism." And later, the German adaptation comes to be what we might now call the Sieg Heil, in the exact same way, an extra myth placed on top of it from a false German past that justified its use. In the German appropriation of fascist rituals, the raised arm salute and the accompanying words Heil Hitler had become part of what was now called the German salute, Deutscher Gruß. Its words followed the pattern of Ave Imperator, Italy's Latin greeting for Mussolini. But since the Italians already claimed the straight arm gesture as their own, not least through its very name, it clearly would not do to adopt the gesture and preserve its foreign name. A new term was necessary to establish the Germans' independence from the Italians and to lay claim to the gesture as being innately German. In fact, Hitler in his own words credits Mussolini with its invention, who we know took it from D'Annunzio, and such the line remains unbroken. "The raised arm is a German salute that has a quite different style. I made the salute at the party long after the Duce had adopted. I read the description of the sitting of the Diet of Worms, in the course of which Luther was greeted with the German salute, and was assured him that he was not being confronted with arms, but with peaceful intentions." As with D'Annunzio and Mussolini before him, Hitler grasped at straws to justify his use of the salute with myth. A myth of an imaginary all-powerful Germany, just a few million murders away from returning. But he too recognized its origin. And the American neo-Nazis that would teach it to Musk, well, they're called neo-Nazis for a reason. Just as this city was once invaded and brutalized by fascism, however, it did eventually leave. I say that. It came back in World War II under Mussolini, and then the Ustasha, the Nazi puppet regime in Croatia, before Yugoslav socialist partisans finally got them to fuck off at the tail end of World War II. But they did leave. All fascist regimes have ended, eventually. For fascism to thrive, it needs an enemy. And if you make an enemy of people, people will fight back. And they have a lot to fight for. They have an existential fight ahead of them. If you're fighting to survive, you're not going to go down easy. And even when fascists win their first few battles, eventually you run out of enemies. And the snake either eats its own tail, or has to explain to the populace why the glory it was promised never came, while thousands remember the people who died in the name of the regime and plot its end. D'Annunzio might have died at the age of 74, retired and his dream long since abandoned, but Hitler died in a bunker in Berlin. The Red Army got its revenge, and he shot himself, defeated, humiliated. Mussolini's body was strung up in the public square, the former Duce displayed, upside down, in utter repudiation of everything he stood for. If American fascism escalates to the heights of the monsters of World War II, it is very unlikely that its perpetrators will end up with as peaceful an end as Gabriele D'Annunzio, retired and free from the consequences of their actions. After D'Annunzio was forced out of Rijeka, there was only a short decade or two of reprieve before his ideas returned to the city with a vengeance. Under the command of Giovanni Palatucci, a man once known as the Italian Schindler, based on a widely believed myth about his heroism, 3/4 of the city's Jews were sent to Risiera di San Saba, the only death camp on Italian soil. None returned alive. Alright, there's no good way to segue out of this topic, so I'm just going to do the most awkward transition of all time and say, let's talk about all the ableist pieces of shit that think Elon Musk did a fascist salute not because he's a fascist, but because he's autistic. As if autism just makes you a Nazi. I might chime in here to say that I have plenty of autistic friends, and as far as I know, none of them have ever done a Nazi salute, by accident or otherwise. But that's not what the internet would have you believe.
Post the full video, bruh. He's just getting out the chaotic energy. He's on the spectrum.
My cousin does this too. He has this kind of energy when he gets overly excited. It's the autism. Watch him talk about it on his SNL episode. Elon just being socially awkward Elon. That him saying my heart goes out to all of you with extra tism on the side. As a person with a strong track record of criticizing Elon Musk, I feel extremely confident asserting that this was not a Nazi salute. Elon Musk is a friend to the Jews. This is a man with Asperger's, exuberantly throwing his heart to the crowd. We don't need to invent outrage. I think he literally has the motor skills and coordination of a toddler. I think his brain knew that he should do some type of action, but physically lacks the coordination to pull off any move that resembles normal human behavior.
Elon is autistic. He isn't a Nazi. I'm angry right now. I have a brother who is autistic, and I know a thing or two about this. Most autistic people have difficulty expressing feelings. Elon does not express feelings very often. When he puts his hand over his heart, and then puts his hand out towards the crowd, he was attempting to share love. That's actually very difficult for many autistic people. He felt strongly about something and was trying to express that. For many people to suggest that he's making an NZ1 salute is completely beyond acceptable, and shows their ignorance, or that they are being intentionally deceptive. Elon was expressing love. So we're trying to make it into anything else.
Roman salute is just a natural reflex in white men upon victory that Jews taught them to suppress. Elon just slipped up because he's autistic, lol.
I shouldn't have to be the one to explain this to you, but being autistic doesn't make you a Nazi. Out of all of the diagnostic criteria for autism, nowhere does it say, is sympathetic to the politics of the Third Reich. Nor will anything about your opinions on the Jews turn up on any Am I Autistic quiz you might take, unless you've ended up on the weird part of the internet by accident. In fact, given how much emphasis fascism, especially those flavours of fascism that take direct inspiration from the Nazis in Germany, places on eugenics, it is in the interest of people with autism to be anti-fascist, and most of them are. The Nazis famously sent a lot of disabled people to camps, and considered them degenerate, bad for society. In fact, the term Asperger's actually has its origins in the Third Reich, and was coined by a Nazi who explicitly wanted a way to protect children on the spectrum that he deemed intelligent enough to be worth living, while still actively sending the rest to their deaths. This man, Hans Asperger, was responsible for the systematic murder of children with disabilities in Vienna under the Nazis, and actively sent many children to their deaths for the crime of not being the right type of autistic for the Nazis. The disabled are usually one of the first groups that fascists go after. Trying to imply that autistic people have some special connection to Nazism is so insulting, I can barely contain my fucking anger. Now, of course, some of the ableist arguments around this aren't saying that Musk is doing fascist gestures because he's autistic, it's just that he can't control how he acts, which is also nakedly ableist and weirdly infantilizing. Autistic people are people. They're responsible for their actions. They have opinions and politics just like everyone else. Some of them are shitty, some of them are great, just like everyone else. And this characterization of all autistic people as toddlers who are barely capable of sentient thought is ridiculously bigoted. Even if he did do the salute by accident, he wouldn't have done it twice. And even if he hadn't, he's agreed with Nazis on his platform enough. He follows and shares posts by prominent neo-Nazis. He speaks at rallies for Italian fascists and for the AfD. To attribute this fascist gesture to him being disabled is just evil. Disabled people are people. They are not mysterious spirits that are completely unpredictable. We're fucking people. I have ADHD and I'm a socialist. Being ADHD didn't make me a socialist, and there are plenty of people with ADHD who have awful politics. Just because your brain works differently to other people does not mean that you are not in control of your own actions. Elon Musk chose to do a Nazi salute. Do not try to imply that to point this out is going after someone for being disabled. That is the kind of sentiment that is truly insulting to disabled people. One of the infuriating things about all of this is how easily these sentiments are swallowed by mainstream figures. People desperate to cling onto something, anything, to believe that there's some other explanation for the mysterious gesture Elon was doing on that stage. People who desperately want the world to be normal so that they don't have to change their perspective, so that they can go to brunch and not have to think about the open fascism right in front of their eyes. Even organizations that are, by definition, supposed to be the people on the lookout for this shit are doing their level best to deny the evidence of their own eyes and ears. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, for example, is exactly the kind of organization that is supposed to clock this shit and make sure that it stops before it spreads. Instead, after spending the last 2 years calling anyone who opposes the slaughter of innocent Palestinians little Hitlers, in response to the richest man on earth literally doing the famous salute of history's most notorious murderer of Jews, couldn't even bring themselves to acknowledge that what Elon Musk was doing was anything more than a little old oopsie. This is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to the anxiety. It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute. But again, we appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace. Perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath. This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. And yet, back in April, ADL head Jonathan Greenblatt compared the keffiyeh scarf worn by Palestinians and in solidarity with Palestinians to the swastika.
If you wouldn't tolerate it if someone's wearing a swastika on their arm, I'm sorry, you shouldn't tolerate it if they're wearing a keffiyeh.
So, Nazi salutes, not anti-Semitic. Keffiyehs, the most anti-Semitic thing on the planet. Got it. What a cool and normal organization that definitely has its priorities straight. I'm sure they're very concerned about Trump releasing a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists who wear shirts that say 6 million wasn't enough, and aren't just cheering Trump on because he happens to be chill with letting Israel get away with whatever crimes it wants to do on the people of Palestine, the West Bank, Syria, and Lebanon. In fact, the ADL exposed the organization's hypocrisy in this saga within a matter of days, after taking the time to make public statements defending Musk's use of a literal Nazi salute. After Elon Musk made a load of awful puns about the top brass of the NSDAP instead of apologizing, they bravely condemned Elon Musk's puns. So, awful jokes, bad. Nazi salute, good. Am I getting this right, ADL? I would have thought that the one that was much worse than the other was the complete opposite way round, but I suppose we all have strong feelings about bad comedy. Either way, the fact that they came to Musk's defense about the salute is just absolutely bizarre. The former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, Stephen Pollard, is also, unsurprisingly, denying what this so blatantly is. You don't really think Musk was making a Nazi salute. You just think you've been handed a gotcha you can use to start the fake outrage over. And it says so much more about you than it does about Musk. It's pathetic. Speaking of faux outrage, this is an excerpt from a pamphlet Stephen Pollard co-wrote saying that NHS privatisation is good because Hitler liked the NHS. Yes, that's not a joke. This is how unserious these people are. And here it's Pollard again, implying that Jeremy Corbyn referring to billionaires being bad is anti-Semitic, so free healthcare, anti-Semitic. thinking billionaires should pay more in taxes. Anti-Semitic. Hitler salutes? Fine, actually. What a credible thing for someone supposedly fighting for the rights of the Jewish people to think. Brendan O'Neill wrote in The Spectator this week that Elon Musk didn't make a fascist salute, which was a huge relief, coming from the paper that published the very real article in praise of the Wehrmacht only a short few years ago. The author of the article, We Need to Start Befriending Neo-Nazis, Bethany Mendel, took to X.com, the Everything app, to make it clear that Elon Musk wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, which I'm sure came as a disappointment to her, because then they'd have been able to be friends. To the people who have never donned a hostage dog tag or met with a hostage family, as Elon Musk has done, to the people who have never been to Auschwitz, as Elon Musk has, to the people who are accusing Elon Musk of anti-Semitism while staying silent about on American college campuses, kindly sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Stop weaponizing Jew hate as you stay silent about it in every other context across our society. I sat at the Netanyahu address in front of Congress and saw Elon Musk clear across the room. He sat a few seats away from a rescued hostage and her dad. I saw their interactions in the halls before the speech. That's a man who gives a damn. I'm grateful for it. And then you have the newspaper headlines from various mainstream outlets who, despite also having seen what we all just saw, just refused outright to call it what it was. Elon Musk gestures during a rally on the inauguration day of US President Trump. Elon Musk draws outrage over odd-looking salute at Trump inauguration celebration. Right-wing extremists are abuzz about Musk's straight-arm salute.
Elon Musk's gesture at Trump rally draws scrutiny.
Musk's strange gesture to a crowd of supporters. Elon Musk's hand gesture at Trump rally draws internet attention. Elon Musk stirs controversy with hand gesture at Trump event. Elon Musk ignites online speculation over the meaning of a hand gesture. All of this is just cowardly behaviour. This is beyond plausible deniability. Everyone can see that this was a Nazi salute. He did it twice too. This wasn't a tripping and falling into a Sieg Heil situation or whatever bollocks these newspaper headlines would have you believe. He did it twice. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to do it. He wants to communicate to Nazis that he's one of them. And he knows that there is a whole swath of people who would make a million excuses to look away from what is blindingly obvious to everyone with more smarts than a single-celled organism that this is a Nazi salute. A Sieg Heil, a Roman salute, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing and that's what it is. And what do you know? No one on the far right is denying it behind closed doors. They're celebrating. They know this was for them. We know this was for them. The only people in denial are the people who are praying that they can just go back to brunch, not realizing that they're shaping up to be background characters in Zone of Interest, just so they can avoid confronting a horrible truth, that fascism has arrived. In America, it's happening right now, and they simply don't have the courage to even identify it. Never mind the courage you need to actually do something about it, to fight it. Something that we've been taught all our lives correctly is the right thing to do. And it is. But they will never do it. They would rather deny that fascism is here, even as people are literally Sieg Heiling behind the presidential seal, than confront the fact that they should be doing something to stop it when they really can't be fucking bothered. And if they won't do anything about it, well, someone has to. And just in case you were still in any doubt about this, the Nazis think this was a Nazi salute. The only people that don't are in serious denial or are trying to convince other people that it's fine actually, because their beliefs actually align with those of Musk, or the NSDAP, because let's be honest, that Venn diagram is a circle. Look at this video by proud neo-Nazi Nicolas Fuentes.
And then the, straight up, that was a serious Roman. It wasn't even like a subtle, a wave, like one of these, like a Laura Ingraham. Remember when Laura Ingraham did that? That was a straight up, Sieg Heil, loving Hitler energy. that was like a straight up with intensity Roman salute.
Or the reels on Twitter putting the salute next to others throughout history. This is not subtle, and no one thinks it is, apart from people doing the political equivalent of sticking their fingers in their ears and shouting, "La la la, I can't hear you." This goes beyond dog whistles. This is just whistles. It's foghorns. Fascists usually try to go for some degree of plausible deniability for this shit, but Elon Musk does not do subtlety. He just out and did it. This is not a dog whistle, this is a foghorn. And the people ignoring this and acting like it didn't happen will look the other way at the more and more overt fascist actions of the Trump administration that are coming, with Musk as an active partner, if not the man behind the throne. And while many governments will get on their knees for Elon Musk due to just how much money and influence he has, we can all see what he did, and in fact, they can too, when they're being honest about it. For example, a collaboration between Led by Donkeys and Center for Political Beauty, after German politicians tried to downplay Musk's salute, despite it being extremely illegal in Germany, projected the image onto the Tesla Gigafactory in Berlin. And it turns out that when someone else projects this exact same image, that it is illegal. Because now the protesters are in hot water, with the public prosecutor's office investigating them in suspicion of using unconstitutional symbols. So, it's okay for Musk, but not for everyone else. If you deem the symbol to be hate speech, which it is, then you have to admit that Musk did said hate speech. It's literally his image on the building. It's almost as if there's some sort of double standard at play, where the rich get away with disgusting, hateful behavior while ordinary people get punished, but that can't be right, can it?
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
In the past couple of decades, in the age of the internet, fascists spread online through the memification of plausible deniability. You could post a Pepe the Frog with a Hitler moustache on 4chan and hide behind "it's just a joke, it's just edgy humour." But for this defense to work, the cover story needs to be at least somewhat plausible. That's how it spreads. This stuff isn't allowed to fester for its own sake. Lots of people like to think they're into edgy humour, and some deeply evil stuff. Some of the people enjoying that edgy humour take the sentiment seriously, as many posters also intended. And the more these things are seen as jokes, the further they can spread, and the more people they can reach who do believe fascist ideas sincerely and can now be more open about what they believe, because they have this new layer of plausible deniability. This might have been what Elon was going for. Maybe he genuinely believed that by saying "my heart goes out to you," only Nazis would notice that he was doing a Nazi salute. But that's not how it went down. Because we all know what a Nazi salute looks like. And no one has ever said "my heart goes out to you" followed by a Sieg Heil. That's never happened before. And so we're left with this. There are a lot of people, more than any sane world should have, in denial about the evidence of their lying eyes. We're left with what I'm calling implausible deniability. No longer are the signals for the far right confined to dog whistles, signals that Nazis understand but that can fly under the radar to those who lack the knowledge or right connections to be alert to them. No longer are we hiding behind the "it's just a joke" defense. Still the primary way people get away with far right sentiment in our modern day. To the people who agree, it's serious. To the people who don't, it's just a joke. Why are you taking it seriously? This is a tactic that at least works on some people. No one is buying this but those who cannot handle what it would mean to accept why they are in denial. And what the moral imperatives would be if someone was indeed on stage behind the presidential seal making literal Nazi salutes. Because that calls for taking a stand. And taking a stand is hard. Even for those of us who believe ourselves to have strong moral compasses. Those of us who take pride in ourselves for fighting for what's right, for sticking to our principles. And this is especially hard when the thing you have to take a stand against is the global imperial hegemon. In the days after writing the initial draft of the script, more and more things kept coming out that kept making this story worse. So I imagine that when this video comes out, the situation will have escalated further. As I sat down to finalise the script, for instance, footage emerged of Elon Musk speaking at an AfD rally. AfD, or Alternative for Deutschland, is Germany's far-right party. It is neo-Nazi in all but name, and in that case only because that would be illegal. Following days of condemnation for Sieg Heiling on the stage, as a representative of the new US administration, he made it his business to tell a room full of wannabe brown shirts that they should just forget what the Nazi party did, that it's fine, that we can move past it, it's not your fault, and we should all in fact campaign exactly like they did. In Musk's own words,
I'm very excited for the AfD, and I think you are really the best hope for Germany. I think some things that, something I think that is just very important is that people take pride in Germany and being German. This is very important. It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle. It's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything. I think we want to have unique cultures in the world. We want to have people that have, we don't want everything to be the same everywhere, where it's just one big sort of soup. We want to have something where it's, you go to different countries and you experience a different culture, and it is unique and special and good. And that the German government takes actions to protect its citizens and make sure that it seeks the health and well-being of the German people. The German people are sort of really an ancient nation, goes back thousands of years. I was even sort of read Julius Caesar's account of first encountering the German tribes in the Gaulic campaigns, and he was like, "Wow, very impressive. These are very, very powerful warriors." I think there's frankly too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that. Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, or even let alone their parents, their great grandparents, maybe even. And we should be optimistic and excited about a future for Germany. That's really my message: is be optimistic, excited, and preserve German culture and protect the German people.
If you are still in denial at this point, you will never be convinced. Also, just for the record, Elon Musk's daughter says that it was a Nazi salute. So that's about as close as we're going to get to confirmation from someone remotely honest who's close to the situation. No matter how many Ben Shapiros you have tweeting pictures of him bringing Musk with him to Auschwitz after he agreed with straight-up Nazi-level anti-Semitism on Twitter to prove that he's not anti-Semitic, but he's doing a Hitler salute, and the only reason you took that picture was because he was being anti-Semitic on the timeline, I'd say make it make sense. But you can't, because we've moved far past plausible deniability. Even after I wrote all this and recorded a bunch of it, he was on a stage with Italian fascists talking about keeping the bloodlines pure of a bunch of European countries. He is a fascist. This was intentional. We have reached the realm of implausible deniability. Denial for the sake of denial. Because the price of acceptance would be admitting that you're siding with Nazis. Or, in the case of those less far right, accepting that there are Nazis out in the open, that it is your moral duty to stop at any cost. How did the war go for your master race? Fled to a bunker and shot in the face. Strung upside down in the public square. Guess you want to end up there. Follow your leader, Nazi scum. One of us must die, I promise I won't be the one. Hey, this was a long one. This took a while to write, and there's a lot of research into it. I'm quite proud of this one. Who knows if we'll get monetized? There's a lot of talk of bad people, and that usually means not. So I would really appreciate donations on this one. I imagine because I made this one, it's going to be a hard month for a couple months because this took so long. But I think it was worth taking the effort. So thank you. Please like this video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, subscribe. And if you can, give a little donation to the channel. And that helps me make stuff like this and to be able to put the time and effort into making these more well-researched videos, as well as making the dumb joke ones that I also like to make. Please, you can do that by donating on Ko-fi or PayPal, links below as always, or signing up to my Patreon or YouTube memberships, where you also get early videos, access to the Discord, which is for members only, so perks, my Nintendo Switch friend code, where you can see how long I've been spending playing all of the Persona games, exclusive content such as long-form interviews with other cool people from YouTubes, and you'll get your name read out at the end, just like these lovely people. Carolyn, Imogen Q, Luciano Frias Andrade, Adam, Cerise Influencer 99, Harry, Endog191, Cav, Quesadilla de Tortilla Azul, Leron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, no not that Paul, MB, Madeleine Aguirre, Ben Murphy, Lex Phoenix, Enter Krizitz, Mira D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Marva and Orr, Thorngill, Bob the Builder 5445554, Deborah Laboon, Vegish, Zilla's Athenaeum, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Lisette, Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helena Real, Sierra Whiskey, Orestria, Ali Catgill, John N, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Dade, and Robin Podolsky, Turtle Choom, Casual Observer, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Tabroga, Soma Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna McMillan, Caroline Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, Howard Lott, Nerony, Scarjan, and Joey Cobalt. Thank you all so much for your patience. Hopefully you'll learn things. And I'm really sorry about everything that's fucking happening right now. Oh my lord. I thought I could take a bit of time to not talk about the trans bans in the UK, and then there's one in the US. So inevitably I'm going to have to talk about that. Give me a minute, because this salute video was a lot. And I've also got a video coming out about war. So there's going to be a lot of heavy stuff this year, but I'll try and break it up with some jokes. Okay, thank you very much. The sun may have gone down, but I'm now at the Italian school, also in Fiume. If you want to learn Italian, and like the guy would like.
That's a symbol of hate, man. You can't just hang that on your wall. It's a comedy prop, man. It's just like a rubber chicken.
It's not like a rubber chicken.